Good day everybody. In today's class we will be learning about other set of important string functions that are required specifically if we are to do some search engine applications or text processing or user input validations and so on and so forth. So having mentioned that, what I wish to do is I would like to start off by giving these functions. So let me enter here. So we will be learning about the find function. We will be learning about the index function. We will be learning about Isalpha function, Isdigit function, and finally Isalnum function. Now, first you need to know why we are learning the find function. What is the use of this find function? Now, this function can be useful in search engines, right? Or whenever you're creating text editing software. Now, let us see an example. So, since I mentioned that it is useful in search engines or in text editing software, say for example, why do we really use this find function? That is the important part, right? So, the find function is actually used to find the position of a word or you can just say keyword or word or phrase for that matter. Now let me give you an example. Let me highlight this off as a comment and then give you an example. Say this is a text editing template, right? Text editing template where you are actually inviting a group of guests and you wanted a very important salutations to be present in the invitation so that people, when they read it, they are happy about it. So let me just start with this example. I'm going to say text and then important, something like that, and then I want it to start it like this: good morning, right? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, right? This should be there. Or say for example you are looking for this particular word good. Okay, you would have noticed that many people, when they are writing letters, they don't include this good. They just say start with morning, ladies and gentlemen. Even when they are saluting or even when they are addressing people, they start with morning. But that isn't a good practice. You need to use this word good. So imagine we are designing a template where we need to use the word or check for the word good. Good has to be there. So now I'm going to say check _1 is equal to, so text.important dot, I use the function find. So what are we looking for? I'm looking for the word good. And now when I say print check, right? So this is the code that we are implementing, and let us see what exactly is the result is going to be. So I'm going to save it. I've already saved it. So let me run this. So when I run it, it says 0. So this is the output. So what is the meaning of it? It means the letter, it looks for the letter G. The letter G starts at position 0, right? Now you might be wondering, what if I don't have this G to be at position 1? So I have G at some other position. So for that, let me use this word welcome. Welcome, and I'm going to change this good as, say, like that, with some key there. So it's not good morning, there is a spell mistake there, but I'm looking for good, right? So what I will do is I will save this and then I will execute this. Now you see that we are looking for good and the check is being made for good, but apparently we don't have good there. We got something like GAD morning, so there is a mistake there. Now we get a -1. Now what is the meaning of this -1? When we are using this find function, if that particular word or phrase is missing, it gives you -1. So that would mean the text or I should say the word, because we always check for part of the text. So the word or the phrase that you're looking is not present. So when a situation like that happens, we get -1. Have this very important distinction in find function. This wouldn't be the case in case of index, because find function and index functions are acting in the same manner, but when it comes to the absence of a word or a phrase, the index function will throw an exception. I'm going to give you that example also now. Now what I wish to do is, I wanted to find, I'm going to change this, I want to find if good morning is present there, right? So I'm going to say morning there, and the check has to be for this entire phrase. So let me just save this. I'm saving it and I'm running it. So it says it is found in position number 8. The first letter is at position number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a blank there, and position 8. That's perfectly fine. Now in case if there is a spelling mistake, say MA, right? It's not morning, it's marning. So there's a spelling mistake there. So I'm executing this. So it says -1. So it means that the engine, the Python engine, is checking for this entire phrase, right? It's not checking just for the letter G. Have that in mind. See, G is found. It's immediately not giving us a positive integer. It gives us -1. So as I mentioned to you, -1 means absence. So clearly you can see that the entire phrase is being checked. So that is a very important application of find functions, and I already mentioned to you, find function is used in search engines, in text processing, and it depends on the application that the person is creating. Okay, so having mentioned that, let me just move on to give you the illustration for the index function, how exactly the index function works. Now let me just change this to morning, good morning, the same thing, but I'm not going to use the find function here. I'm going to use the index here and see if it is working. So let me just save this. I'm looking for the index of this phrase. I'm applying, so again it's 8, so no change. So let me just change this, save it, and I run it. Again it will say 8. Say for example, I'm looking for ladies. So what am I exactly doing here? I'm checking for the word ladies. I want to make sure that the invitation has ladies. That is the important part. I just don't want to simply say good morning gentlemen, right? I want the invitation to include ladies. It should be ladies and gentlemen. So I'm checking for this, and so once I run this code, it says 21. So that's perfectly fine, because this starts with 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That's perfectly fine. Now suppose in case of ladies, there is a spelling mistake there. So I'm saving it and I'm running it. So you clearly see that, there is an exception. So what happens here in this case is, in case of the index function, the program will not get executed. The application will not get executed. It will throw an exception. So the distinction between the find function and index function is that in case of the find function, the execution will be carried on. There will be no stoppage with the application. But in case of the index, when you use the index function in the application will not be executed. So that is the cutting edge difference between the find function and the index function. So having mentioned that, let me just move on to show you the illustration for Isalpha. So I hope you got that that basic thing, that important distinction between find and index. So let me just move on to Isalpha. Now Isalpha is also a very important function where you can actually use it in case of validation. Now you are insisting that all your members should have a name, right? All the invited guests should have a name. So for example, let me just comment this off and let me give this requirement. So the requirement is, it is imperative that everybody, all invited guests, ought to have a name. This is important, right? We don't address people with numbers. We give them a name. So if somebody is using our template or our application to send in the invitation, they should put in a name. So they just cannot come in and put in, say, 786. We don't call people like that, 786, right? So we want them to be addressed as, say Mr. Tom or Miss Helen, like that. So we need to have a check. So how are we going to do the check? So for that, we need this Isalpha. So let me give this illustration for example, right? I'm going to start like this, say name, or like that, name of the guest is equal to, say I'm taking in the input, please enter your guest name, right? So the guest name has to be entered, and once we enter the guest name, we are going to take in a check. So check or name check, I'm just a variable, that would be name of the guest is entered, and then you call in the Isalpha function. You see that the function is there, Isalpha. Now this will give you true value or a false value. So if the person has entered a rightful name with alphabets, or I should say with letters in the alphabet, then it will give you a true value, right? So I'm going to say print, we need to get it printed, right? So print check name, right? So that is the code, and we are saving it. Then let me run it. So once I run it, please enter the guest name. Say I'm entering Tom. You see that? The answer is true. Fine. Now if in case, let me run it one more time. If in case I'm entering 3, 4, see that? False. How beautiful it is. Now you can change this. What happens when the person has entered a number? So you can state here an if statement. If check name is equal to false, you can write it like that. Probably that's a check there. If check name is equal to false, you say print please enter a valid guest name and not a number. So this comes out if this is true. If, in other words, if the person has entered a valid name, else we come out here and this is printed. So this is just a simple line of code. So I'm saving it. I'm saving all of this. And then let's check how this code works. Please enter. So I'm going to enter 1, 2, 4, 5. He says that please enter a valid guest name and not a number. That's it. The process is finished. So if you want, you can reroute the control. You can put in the subsequent lines of code that you want. Now let me run it one more time and show you what happens when you enter, say, Tom there. True. You see that? The other line of control gets executed. So this is an illustration to show how the Isalpha works. Now let me just comment this off. I'm going to show you how the Isdigit works. Isdigit is also a function that is used in validation. So let me write that Isdigit is a function that is used in validation. So when I say validation, it is more like a system in place, a wall in place, which is checking the information that the user has entered. So let me give you an example here. You are asking the user to enter the password, right? Say for example, a system is designed, an application is designed where the user has to enter a valid, say, a combination of numbers. So in that case, what we can do is we can use this check. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take in the value, say for example, some accepted PIN number. In this case, this is a scenario where the password is already set or given to the user. This is the password that he has to enter. When I say password, or I should say the combination of numbers that he or she has to enter, say for example to get into a database, right? So let me just write that down here. Password accepted. So that is equal to, so I'm going to give you a password, say 675439. This has to be entered by the person. So in this case, you can simply say check password is equal to password accepted dot Isdigit. Now this just tells us that the entered password is a digit. It doesn't go and check for each and every element. And I'm printing it. I'm going to say print check password. Now there isn't much check here, right? This is the password that is already given into the code. We are not receiving this. I will also simultaneously show you how to receive it and how to execute it. So this is just a basic line of code for your understanding how this function works. So it says true. See that this is actually true. Now let me just go back. If in case there is a $sign there, and imagine this is what is received from the user, and I'm saving it, it says false. You see that? Now you can suitably change this program. Instead of getting it into the code or having it pre-written, you can actually receive it from the user. And how do we do that? So just take this off, and then you say input, say please enter the combination of digits for your locker, just like that. So this is a different scenario where you are requesting the user to set the combination. So I'm going to run it to the locker. Same, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it says true. So let me just run it one more time. I'm running it one more time. I'm just going to give 6, 7, 5, 4, 9, 8. or 83. So it's true. Wonderful. Now what I will do is I will run it one more time and I will give him like 897655 percentage. You see, this is the combination given, but there is a hidden character there. I'm going to give an enter. You see that? See the beauty of the code. It is able to pick it up. It is able to pick this. For the naked eye, I don't think if someone were to wet this, they would be able in a position to pick this up. It's not going to be all that easy. So that is the power of this beautiful function Isdigit. So having mentioned you this Isdigit, and it's time for us to move on to the next important function. The next important function, let me comment this off, is going to be Isalpha. How do we represent it? We represent it like this, Isalnum. Now this is also a validation tool. Now imagine you are asking your employees in the organization to set up a secret access password to get into the database, right? So they would have to have this secret combination. Every employee are required to create their own password that will allow them to access the company's database. So the requirement here in this case is that the password that the person is entering should contain alphabets, or I should say letters in the alphabet, as well as numbers. That's the requirement. Now how do we go about this? So this is password for user, some variable I'm creating. I'm going to say input. Please enter a password that has letters and digits. So this is required. Now we need to check password is equal to password dot isalpha, right? So this is the check. Now if this check is true, we will get the output as true. If it is not, we will get the output as false. Simple as that. So I'm going to say print check password. So let me just save this line of code and execute this. So please enter the password in digits. So what I will do is I will say OPERI operation 45. It says false. Please enter a password that has letters and digits. Oh, it says false. Now why it said false? Because I have used Isalpha. I did not use Isalnum. So what I need to do is I need to use this one, Isaldnum. Now when I use Isaldnum, let me save this off and let me run it. Okay, so when I run it, I'm going to give the same thing, operation 45. So this particular password created by the user has got letters in the English alphabet as well as two numbers, two digits. It says true. You see that? And let me run it one more time and given like this, say operation $, ampersand, and then go. It says false. Why? Because of the presence of characters. It's not letters in the English alphabet. So the check is strictly for letters in the English alphabet and for numbers. So I hope this class has been very informative and useful for you all. If you have any questions and doubts, please let me know. Until we meet again, have a good day.